In the room, Alice finds a bassinet with the impossibly small Willow in it. Despite her greatly reduced appearance, Willow's mind is functioning. She begs Alice to get her out of there, so Alice complies and tucks Willow into her borrowed doctor's jacket. Once again, this is somehow the most actually Alice in Wonderland thing that's happened in this entire book. Hello and welcome to Comprehension Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books and discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of the Wonderland Trials by Sara Ella. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 29. Alice wakes up and overhears some people talking about her. She sits up but can't see anything but a blur of colors without her glasses. Chess shows up and Alice guesses that she's in the normal world. He agrees and tells her that it seemed like the safest option for her. She asks about Willow on several occasions, but neither Chess nor Dina really give an answer either way. Chess is quick to reassure her that Charlotte, Sophia, and Jack are all safe back in Wonderland. Alice finally calls them out and says that they're trying to lie to her. Dina defends her actions and insists that they're intentionally keeping things for her own safety, not lying, which is clearly different. All the sarcasm. She fidgets with the brooch pinned to her dress. The onyx stone at the center absorbing any light that hits it. Yeah, hi. Onyx isn't made from blackest black. If it's not refracting at least a little bit of light, I'm pretty sure that it's not onyx. And it's not so much that I'm expecting that an author know every single thing about every single topic under the sun. All I'm saying is that it literally took me a second to Google a picture of onyx and confirm that it does not indeed look like a tiny pile of black holes. Anyway, the reason why Alice notices the not onyx that Dina has is because Scarlet also wears a similar stone. Wow, it's almost like you can buy them literally anywhere or something. How weird is that? But for some reason, the narration wants us to view these two women who both chose to wear onyx not as a coincidence, but as something important. Are we going to unpack this now? No. Even Alice acknowledges that she's setting this information aside for later. But that's more than I can say about other drop plot lines in this book. Raven shows up then and explains to Alice that Chess is underage and that he doesn't know half of what full-fledged members do. He goes on to say that everybody was hoping that everything would fall into place once Alice was in Wonderland. Chess literally admits that the only reason why he's there is in the hopes of finding his missing brother. Not like I blame him, although now at least we know where he stands. He actually doesn't care about Alice and never did, which is exactly as I had thought. Tina goes on to explain about how Charlotte hadn't wanted to put Alice in the play, but that meant that Charlotte was in the way, so they removed her. Ow! Imagine being betrayed by your own allies like that. At this point, I'm pretty sure that the only reason why Charlotte hasn't snapped is because she's still trying to protect the girl that she's raised. However, at least Raven has the decency to call Dina out on reporting Charlotte to the authorities. At least it's being acknowledged at how terrible Dina acted. What's worse is that Dina doesn't seem to give a hoot about Charlotte and is only focused on prodding Alice into position. Hey, do you guys want to know why it is that you haven't managed to stop Scarlet yet? Probably because you're all too preoccupied with backstabbing one another and manipulating people. Charlotte was registered. You know what they do to registered wonders. They mess with their minds, making it so that you can't enter Wonderland at all. Charlotte knew the dangers of joining the Night Society, young man. We all did. When you join a society with the intent of toppling a despot queen, one of the risks should never be get betrayed by your own people. What a completely loathsome woman. I hope she gets shoved into a volcano. Raven and Chess snap at Dina that her backstabbing Charlotte hasn't helped anyone. It seems as though Raven is more focused on finding his missing brother than anything else, too. Alice then calls attention back to herself and sums up the previous 2 pages in less than a single paragraph. You know, in case you hadn't been paying attention. Dina's response is to throw Blanche under the bus, which is really on brand with that level of narcissism, honestly. Anyway, Blanche is evil because she's more focused on finding the Ivory King rather than to rescue anybody or remove Scarlet. However, regardless of if you think the Ivory King is real or not, believing in the King is hardly the same thing as literally betraying one of your allies. Raven doesn't like Dina's cop-out, which is good. Chess asks why Alice is the key to all of this. Dina explains that during Charlotte's own run at the trails, she dropped out before the 4th and final test. She'd been asked by Catherine to hide Alice, so that's what she did. So that explains why Charlotte came back. She never actually left. It's honestly fairly clever to disappear using the disappearance of other children as a cover. Allison remarks upon the first trial with how off Maddie seemed in the Hall of Mirrors. Raven tells her that Maddie took Stark's disappearance hard. But Raven hesitates when Snark didn't return. There's no mistaking the heaviness in his voice. It's like I lost my sister too. All she cared about was finding him, no matter the cost. Alice doesn't know what Maddie's obsession with her lost brother has to do with poisoning Alice, though. Not mentioned is how Maddie also poisoned Willow, but that's on brand with how narcissistic Alice is, so whatever. Alice then randomly thinks about some weird things Maddie has said during her podcast. She then jumps to the conclusion that Maddie must have found some way to communicate with her missing brother during it and tells the others her theory. The others think that, if true, then Stark probably figured out how to reply and told Maddie to sabotage the trial. Much like everything else, this is nothing but a shot in the dark and is quickly filed under magical Mary Sue guessing powers. The others don't act like this is a possibility, but rather that Alice must be 100% correct, which is maddening that they never once consider literally any other possibility. Then they start to talk about the Jabberwock trial, which would be fine, but they start to talk about Scarlet's greatest fear, and I'm really confused about how we got on this conversation. It doesn't exactly take a rocket science to figure out that Scarlet is afraid of losing her power to the point where she's apparently disappearing people who stand in her way. However, all of this conversation was nothing but a jumping pad for Alice to declare that they have to go back and face their own fears. Also, before I move on to the next chapter, I'd like to state that I was confused if anybody had actually answered Alice about if Willow was okay or not. So I went back and literally reread the entire freaking chapter. The second that Nina says, "Don't worry about the others," Alice seriously took that to heart. She never once bothered to ask about Willow for the rest of the chapter. Is Willow alive? Dead? Who knows? Not this book, that's for sure. Chapter 30. Alice convalesces in normal London. She asks about Willow, which I suppose answers my questions from the end of the previous chapter. However, Dina only has this to say. She didn't arrive with you when you fell back into this reality. We don't know where she is. Which is better than the narration completely dropping Willow like it did in the previous chapter. But not by much. Despite them telling Alice that they're trying to find out where she is, I think even Alice knows that Willow is yet another statistic in children lost to the trials. Because if Willow kept shrinking, how exactly are you supposed to find somebody who's smaller than an atom? The worst part is that Alice has no memory after she crawled into that flower. She doesn't remember going back to the normal world. So she's as clueless about Willow as the others are. After Alice recovers her strength, she meets with Dina and Jess at a diner. However, before we can actually move on with the plot, this chapter has yet to meet its quota of wandering purple prose padding. Alice thinks about how they went to the same diner in Wonderland, but obviously that one was much better. This launches her into the glitches that she'd been having for the past decade and wishes that she could catch a glimpse of Wonderland right now. This wraps up after a shorter amount of time than anticipated, however. Tina explains the relationship between the normal world and Wonderland is like a mirror, which nope, not today, Satan. However, before the narration can explain why this is relevant, the author has to beat us with more forced Alice chess romance. Alice almost internally confesses her love for chess. I continue to not care. Chess also quotes from the Mad Hatter, which is 100% not his line, but whatever. Chess draws everybody's attention back to the diagram that Dina had made, but the problem is that she thinks that there's another mirror one that's the actual Wonderland, and that the Wonderland that they know is actually nothing but a cheap reflection of not only the real Wonderland, but also the real world. And if any of you have been paying any sort of attention to the previous videos about this book, you will probably know what I'm going to say next. This is nothing more than conjecture, with no way to prove or disprove this right now. However, I have the worst feeling that this is going to be 100% accurate, again, because, say it with me folks, Mary Magical Sue guessing powers. And as usual, this revolves around Alice, well, specifically her unique biology. She says that wonders and normals are supposed to be two halves of the same coin, but they're so set on dividing themselves that they've forgotten this. She then throws out the stupidest bit of speculation so far. Maybe the real reason Scarlet has been doing all of this is because she knows where the real Wonderland is, but she doesn't want to go there alone. Even if I acknowledge this, which I'm refusing to do out of the idea that acknowledging brain-breakingly stupid questions only encourages more, this only raises further questions. Well, one, actually. If it's true that Scarlet wants the others to go back to the real Wonderland with her, why all of the cloak and dagger? Simply tell people and go. Ugh, I have a headache right now. Dina now declares that it is story time. Oh joy, I can hardly wait for plot device fairy tales. Dina starts to tell a story about a king in search of a new bride, and then he finds one. For some reason, this is the most fascinating thing Alice has ever heard in her entire life, despite the fact that Dina basically only said, once upon a time. However, as Dina goes on about how the queen grew jealous over the king and eventually rejected him, Alice is in near tears after what basically amounts to 2 paragraphs of a fairy tale told in the most passive voice imaginable. I take back what I said a minute ago about Alice. This sounds 100% mentally stable. Anyway, after the king rejected the king, he sent her packing. She lost the ability to even go to that world anymore and became upset with her decision. She cried so much that she made the pool of tears. Here, Dina explains that it's tradition for people to come on a date in the summer and put flowers by the pool in memory of lost loved ones. Alice thinks that this sounds like a metaphor for Scarlet and the Ivory King, which, again, it's a cool story, but it hardly proves anything. Stop jumping to conclusions so much. She goes back to an earlier theory that defeating the Jabberwock is the only way to go to the real Wonderland, which that's also nothing but speculation as well. There's no proof that defeating it will net you the rewards that you seek. However, Chess points out a huge flaw in Alice's plan of we'll defeat the Jabberwock and go to the real Wonderland. It's not the fact that the entire plan hinges on a giant what if, but rather that during the 4th trial the year before, the entire thing was nothing but a complete nightmare, that he himself barely made it out alive, which, while that's not exactly my first complaint about her plan, he does raise an insanely valid point. Dina completely ignores her grandson's warnings, however. Instead, she warns that if Scarlet had been able to reach Wonderland, it would be doable by everybody, which is also a fair and valid point. However, much like Twilight Sparkle, Alice seems to think that the power of friendship will help her out here, and whatever weird crush Alice has on Chess, which is snuck in so quick that it makes me wonder if the Chess-Alice relationship hadn't been put in at the last minute. Chapter 31. All of that decided, or not in my opinion, they still need to discover what happened to Willow. Dina thinks that she might be in the Wonderland Hospital, which, why was that not the first place anybody looked for her? However, rather than send literally anybody to check, Alice, Chess, and Dina sneak into a hospital in Norma, London in the middle of the night. Alice is surprised that it's actually a hospital and says that it looks more like a prison. Dina says that all they have to do is to slip over to Wonderland to check and see if Willow is in the Wonderland Hospital or not. Dina then says that she has to go meet up with Blanche to help them plan the next trial, which is to take place in 2 weeks. She disappears, leaving Alice and Chess alone. And they are now so alone. They randomly kiss, and why? What is happening? Again, I feel like this relationship was kind of added at the last minute. It's like the author needs to beat us around the head with the entire thing simply to remind the readers that these two are in love with each other, darn it, because if she didn't keep reminding us, I might legit forget about it, because the second Chess is off the page, it's like Alice no longer remembers him at all. They slip over to Wonderland and find themselves in the Wonderland Children's Hospital. The WB tells Alice that they're in the creature bite ward. The two of them look around for a moment before Chess pulls on a doctor's coat. For as smart as Anira, she keeps trying to pretend Alice as she 100% feels to understand the idea of putting on a coat is a disguise. Despite their need for urgency and to not be discovered, Chess decides that now is the perfect time to stand in the middle of the hall and discuss theories. He says that everybody thinks that Alice is in the Wonderland Hospital. Charlotte has been keeping an eye on Maddie during this time. He also implies that maybe Maddie made an honest mistake. He then tries to throw the blame on Nave, which Alice starts to believe a little bit, if only because the other boy is so antisocial. This makes Alice think of how she was barely starting to open up to Maddie, and then Maddie went and betrayed her trust. And then that thought leads to somebody else that she can no longer trust, Dina, which obviously paints a rather negative light over Chess. He reassures her that she can trust him. No, really. But Alice isn't so sure, not after learning about how Dina sold out Charlotte earlier. He tries to tell her that she's really overthinking this, that the two of them are on the same side, that she knows him. Alice insists that she doesn't know him half as well as he's insisting, and that using logic to decide that Chess isn't to be trusted isn't that odd. She continues on and insists that since she woke up on the normal side, she's been trying to find out what happened to Willow. So why did Dina suddenly decide that she might have some clue as to what happened to her? Chess asks why he would lie to her, but Alice's opinion of Chess couldn't be lower after his own grandmother betrayed Charlotte. Alice tells Chess where to stick it and walks away, saying that she can find Willow on her own. Chapter 32. What's the use of having the Wonder Gene if I can't find my way around an imaginary building? I legit don't know what wonder has to do with having a good sense of direction, although considering half of the solutions in Wonderland boil down to, have you considered wanting it badly enough? Has Alice considered wanting it badly enough? Alice wanders around the hospital for a long while before realizing that maybe it's not so much that she's got a terrible sense of direction in as so much as the walls and rooms are literally rearranging themselves. Alice stares at a mural of some flowers on the wall and imagines the famous flower conversation from the source material. The author isn't even trying anymore. Then this other doctor, I don't know, comes towards Alice and starts saying stuff about how Alice is supposed to be somewhere. It's honestly kind of a lot of word salad filed under, author trying way too hard to emulate the whimsy of Carol. Anyway, the woman kind of gives Alice directions on how to get around the hospital, seeming to without really understanding what's happening. They're about as clear as mud, but Alice agrees to go anyway. Before she leaves, she asks about Willow. The woman agrees that Willow is in the Hall of Intense Allergies and Impossible Ailments. Alice follows the doctor's directions and somehow manages to go up a flight of stairs. She starts looking for Willow and starts making handles on doors so she can look through a keyhole, I guess. Why not simply make a window? But some of the doors won't make a handle, so Alice complains that she's only trying to find Willow. One of the doors creaks open. In literally any other book, I'd be angry about how convenient that it is. But this is Wonderland, and this is seriously the most Alice in Wonderland thing that's actually happened. In the room, Alice finds a bassinet with the impossibly small Willow in it. Despite her greatly reduced appearance, Willow's mind is functioning. She begs Alice to get her out of there, so Alice complies and tucks Willow into her borrowed doctor's jacket. Once again, this is somehow the most actually Alice in Wonderland thing that's happened in this entire book. As they leave the room, Willow explains that there's only one person around, Nurse Humpty, the creepy lady Alice spoke to earlier. The nurse keeps coming back in and giving Willow shots, but Willow thinks that they're stunting her growth. She also couldn't walk and swore up and down that she thought that she was going to die there. Alice looks around and tries to imagine a lift to take them down and out, but none appears. She gets frustrated and decides to turn off her WV, only to realize that something was insanely wrong with it. Where she wasn't seeing anything before, she's now seeing so much. She tells Willow to turn off her WV, and Willow gasps that they must have been hacked, that they really have to go. Alice starts to get onto one of the lifts, but says that she can't leave without Chess. But when Willow asks if Alice knows where Chess is, she pauses again. Oh my, Willow, I think this is part of the trials. You know what? Sure, why not? They decide that this entire time they've been in a timeout, that they have to go back and finish the trial because everybody is waiting for them. So they turn their WVs back on and decide that the next thing that they need to do is to leave the hospital. Willow asks how much time is left for them to finish the run. Jack says the last thing he'd said before the timeout was called, which is that there's 5 minutes left. Alice is surprised because while an entire week has passed for her, literally no seconds have gone by for anybody else. Asking Jack for the time left seems to break the curse of the creepy hospital because they find themselves standing in the field, exactly where they had been. Willow and Alice continue to do their run like literally nothing had happened. They make it through in time, and Team Heart wins! Probably because they were the only ones who weren't trying to play croquet with fire-breathing flamingos as mallets, but okay. Despite no mention of either Willow nor Alice having been restored to their proper sizes, the rest of the team lifts the two of them up onto their shoulders as confetti falls. Alice looks around and sees Chess standing and watching. He's smiling, but it doesn't meet his eyes, and Alice feels terrible. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've read all of my main Snarks, you can find even more Snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Members also get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snarks so much that you want me to Snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just 1 cent per word. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, and if you aren't following me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!